Welcome back to Caffeine Confessionals. We are here to talk about the challenge, Spies, Lies, and Allies, episode 11. Yeah, we're 11 episodes in, and guess what? We're still into this season, so that's an absolute win. My name is Allan and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, the Southern Luke Muncie.
What's up, guys?
And unfortunately, our Canadian co-host, Miss Nikki Sin, is undergoing a couple surgeries. We wish her well. She'll be back next week, and we miss her. But until then, we have to talk about this episode of Spies, Lies, and Allies. Luke, what did you think?
Pretty solid. The past couple weeks I've liked. This week was pretty good. There are a few misses in the episode for me, but overall, pretty good.
Yeah, and I think the whole challenge fandom right now is so excited by like All Stars 2 and Challenge All Stars 3, which is being set to film soon, and everyone's attention is going towards that, and they're just making fun of Spies, Lies, and Allies. And I'm like, this season's getting pretty good, though. It's been good for the last few weeks. Like, I know we're all excited about that, but if we just watch what we have right here, we got some good challenge going on.
Yeah, you never miss a good thing till it's gone. I definitely feel like even with the past couple seasons, maybe not last season, but maybe it's too fresh. You go back and rewatch them, and you're like, wait, this was pretty good. And I think too many of us might know a few spoilers ahead of time, and it kind of dampens like our expectations. But I think it's been pretty good.
Yeah, this season, besides that like episode 4 to 8 point where it was like, Josh, Fessy, Logan, Gabo elimination episode, those were kind of weaker points in the season. But we started strong, and in the last few weeks, it's really picked up back again, and it's been a good, enjoyable season. In this episode, we had a lot going on, and the editing has really been crucial towards how these last few episodes have gone, because we've seen a lot more players talking openly about their lives outside the show, why they're competing. And that moves us into our house life and like drama portion, where we see Ashley post-elimination, just emotional over getting this big win. And, she's talking to Nany about, what it's like to deal with all this stuff in the house, all the doubts. And she doesn't know this whole time that Nany is the person who's been pushing the agenda to get Ashley taken out of the game.
Kind of heartbreaking. Ashley's excited. I can't wait to call my mom. Ashley's mom, Tina, is a phenomenal woman. Heartbreaking to see Nany in that light. However, I will say it made me feel better about last week because Nany was upfront with Ashley. She said, I love you. And there are days that I'm like, I love this girl. She could be my friend. But still in the back of my head, could she screw me over? But you proved that you haven't. Based on Ashley's social media activity last week, if anybody saw that, I don't feel like her and Nany's friendship is going to fare that well the rest of this season. I appreciated her honesty, but like you said, she was the one plotting.
Yeah, there's a lot of baggage there. That's really all we can say about it, and it's going to come to a head pretty soon because the rookie girls are dwindling. The options are there. If one team loses, it could go one way. And also, we have to remember, you get voted into elimination, you call someone out of the sand. Ashley's already beaten Nany in elimination before. Maybe she thinks she can do it again.
I feel like she could. And honestly, Nany could have played this and maybe should have played this if she ever were to be caught for trying to get Ashley thrown in by saying, I wanted you to win and join my team.
The big brain play. Yeah, we see more house life elements of people getting their calls home. We see Kyle calling his pregnant girlfriend, and she shows him the sonograph. He sees his baby for the first time, and now the baby is with him in real life. Since the time they filmed, it's been born, and as much of a shithead as Kyle can be sometimes, this was an endearing moment to see he's playing for something bigger than himself for once.
Yeah, as much as I get tired of Corey having the same played out storyline of having children, for Kyle, this is fresh, this is new, and this is a part of his life outside of the game that's has a huge impact on him. So I like the moment.
And it's even funnier, like Amanda, who has had a child, whose birthday child, is kind of like poking fun at him. It's like, oh, this is what pregnancy is like, kind of grossing him out. But she spoke honestly, and it was just, to me, it was one of the funnier moments in the episode because it was real stuff.
Yeah, it didn't feel forced at all to me.
I mentioned this in my recap last week, in my Rin recap, but we didn't talk about it on the podcast. But I love Amanda because she's like the only real person on the show anymore because she has a real job and she has like a real like kids and a family. everyone else on this show is a social media influencer or professional reality star. Amanda is a person with a real job coming on these shows.
Yeah, she has been a breath of fresh air, and I know she has so many haters, but I agree. There's just an authenticity that comes with her that you can't beat.
It's the throwback elements of the show where someone would come on the show after like being gone for a long time or a season off, and you find out like what's been going on in their lives. Whereas we know what's been going on with Josh for the last few years. He's just been goofing it up. We know what's been going on with Casey. We know every little thing in their lives, and it's too much. We need to take a step back so that way we could actually appreciate them.
Yeah, I agree. I was also happy to see the phone call between Ed and his mom, Tammy. If you watch the circle they played together, it just was a nice little crossover. And she seemed proud of her son, who I will say, too, also has a job. He's not one of these people that you see on social media just, I'm selling this for $20 a click or whatever the deal might be. So that was nice. It was nice to see Nelson have a conversation with his mom. However, I told Allan this before we filmed this. I like it. She seems like a sweet lady. I love the backstory of Nelson's life, but we've heard it before. And Allan said, and I will fully co-sign this. This is about the time where MTV should start to reconsider, is 90 minutes what we should be pushing for? Should we be tapering back as we get less people in the house? And then I'm going to contradict myself. Corey has the same played out storyline, but I really would have loved to have seen Ryder on my screen. We didn't get that.
Yeah. I don't like when Corey talks about having kids, but I like seeing Corey with his kids. And like there's a big difference between the two. Yeah, I would have really like laughed my ass off if they brought Hunter on for Nelson's phone call, and Nelson's like, Hunter, you're missing out. I hooked up with Ashley. I hooked up with this girl named Bertha. There's this guy named Ed. He's kind of like you. He's my new best friend. He's like, you're missing out, buddy. And then Hunter's just like sat at home without his money because he's broke.
Yeah. Waiting by the phone. Am I going to get a phone call? Are you calling for me next season?
Yeah, and then we see Tula, Big T. She gets a phone call from her sister, and her sister calls her Tools, which I thought was very cute and endearing.
Yeah, Big T is somebody who, like you said, the past few seasons, we know what she's up to. However, she is somebody we don't have a lot of backstory on. At least I don't personally. So it is nice to see a sister family come on, and we get to know her a little bit better.
And then is that all our calls? We have 4 calls, right?
Yeah, those are all our calls. Yes.
And then the next house life portion we see is Emmanuel, someone who, like, we don't know if he has a family. We don't know if he's just an actual vampire, but he's just jumping into a pool, biting on Tori's butt in the pool. And then she takes him upstairs and she puts him in a wig. She puts him in a dress of some sorts, and he's just dancing, twerking around in heels. And then they hook up, and they're having a lot of fun. They're 2 weirdos. I don't know how to describe it in any other way.
Nail on the head. It seems to me like they're just enjoying the moment. Like they're not trying to force anything, that it's just 2 absolute freaks having fun, and they're letting their freak flag fly.
I didn't mind seeing Emmanuel and all that drag and stuff like that, but I felt like it did go for about 45 seconds longer than it needed to.
There was a lot of butt cheeks just out shaking that I'm like, okay, we could have cut this off the time block here. But yeah, it was a fun segment. It was nice to see just the contrast between the daily grit, things like that, and just the fun in the house.
And I mean, Emmanuel is the one guy who has not gone into elimination from the rookie in the rookie game. So there's a reason to it. He's just blended in really well. He's a fun spirit, and he's a good competitor. Good for him. Tori, I don't know. I just don't have any opinion on Tori at this point. That's a good one.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm just going to keep quiet.
Are there any other house plot elements you want to talk about?
Not that I can think of.
Ooh, I just remembered a big one. They showed us Kyle photoshopped onto a baby.
It's pivotal to the episode. Absolutely necessary. We needed that.
It really freaked me out. It was very unnecessary. And there is something more important. And that is Team Ruby had a workout where Corey put them through a boot camp, similar to Nelson's boot camp from earlier this season. And it had much less success. Big T was struggling. Logan's injured, so he's not even participating. Kyle's making a fool of himself. Was not great.
Yeah, it was the poor man's Nelly T's boot camp. If you look at the people who Nelly T had in his boot camp, it was like, okay. And Corey didn't even have his entire team because Logan's dry self was nursing his hamstring.
My favorite thing was Big T saying like, it's midday. I don't work out when the sun's out, right? Like at this time of day. So I'm done for. Like cut me off.
I immediately thought, Big T, if you were to make a final, what are you going to do? Just say, let's film this at night, in the morning. We can't do it right now.
Big T, it's like her pros, elite nighttime and morning competitor. Cons will not compete in the day. Just won't.
At all. Will quit the show.
Oh man, the Ruby team is an absolute mess, and they didn't even get a good song like Nelson did with Anaconda. I mean, that's rough moment.
They got Work Bitch by Britney Spears, right?
Oh, you know what? You're right. My bad. But the first like 2 minutes of it was no sound, and at the end they got Work.
Yeah, I'd still prefer Anaconda though. It makes for a better like atmosphere.
Yeah, more fun, more jovial. And then going from the house life portion to the daily challenge portion, which is crucial as 1/3 of the house gets safety and the others are all for elimination. And now talking about the daily challenge, the players arrive to the competition. They will be jumping from a giant contraption of metal beams that are staggered between one another. The length and distance between the beams gets larger and larger, I believe, as it goes on. At the end, if you get to the final beam, a player must jump and grab an extension cord / plug that is under a beam and try to rip it off as they come down. The team who gets the most plugs in the fastest amount of time wins the daily challenge. And as they're doing this, players from far away can shoot a fire hydrant / water hose at their opponents to make them slip. This was an incredibly difficult daily challenge. And as it went on, it got harder and harder for who went in what order because the floor got slippier because that's what water does.
Yeah, and you're leaving out the most crucial part, Alan, that it is sponsored by P3 Protein. And they have the clip of like Ashley jumping up and down like, yay! I'm like, they definitely have taken this from another section because strange. No, challenge seems pretty straightforward, but I'm like you, like if you're not the first person to go, good luck to you because that's near impossible.
Yeah, and the first team to go was the Sapphire team, which was CT, Ed, Nelson, Amanda, Ashley, and Bettina. And also, they were really high up there. That's really crucial to note because Bettina, who hasn't shown any fear this season, kind of had her first like rookie moment of like, whoa, guys, what are we doing here? Is this what the challenge is about? Because like, what if I fall and miss? And I mean, she's on a team with like 4 veterans and Ed, who is in the clouds. So she was just terrified like any normal person would be.
Yeah. And we'll talk more about it later, but having CT go first was smart in a sense because he could show them how to do it, but also like, it's going to get slippery. That's the word. Wouldn't you want to save your best for last and maybe like deal with, the worst of the worst?
Did I say slippy?
You did, and it was stuck in my head. So you know what? We just are slippy, or slippery.
No, Slippy. That's the name of the character from Star Fox. That's a video game character. Yeah, slippery. That's the right word. Yeah, I think my brain was like CT should go last because he'll be the most capable of doing it when it's the most wet. But everyone else did need to see him go. Like that was very important. So I see the argument for both sides. And the funny thing is, what was evident in this daily challenge is that like you kind of needed height to succeed in this challenge because CT didn't even jump most of the time. He was mostly just walking and hopping between the first few platforms because he's a massive human. He's 6'2". He was just walking across with ease. And then he gets the first plug. He almost slips up at one point, but overall success. He's CT. He kills it. Nelson tries, and he has to hop and hop and hop. And we were talking about like what's the difference between Nelson and CT? That's 6 inches in height. Nelson's 5'8". Ed is 5'6". That's even shorter. So they're trying to hop. They're like putting their whole body into the beams, And if you overjump like Nelson and Ed did, you just slip off, especially as people are just shooting you with water. It was just so incredibly difficult.
Yeah, it was kind of disappointing because I look at those two guys as very strong, but you're right. They don't have the height for it at all.
Ashley just dips out immediately. She's like, I can't do this. She just jumps down. And I think that's a smart choice because you could have really gotten easily hurt in this challenge. And she also figures out, like, well, it's probably going to be a male elimination day. If it was a female elimination day, I think Ashley would have jumped. And I know some people aren't going to respect her for that, but, you live to play another day.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed just because I love her. But Ashley is, I'm not saying she's disloyal like Nani said last week, but in a sense, Ashley is selfish. I mean, look at the girl. She's stolen money for herself. She knows she's not on the chopping block. She knows that CT isn't, and likely Nelson isn't either. If she loses Ed, like, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, but you look at some other people's falls, and I see Ashley's rhetoric more and more and more. Bettina also dips out because she sees Ashley dip out, and that like if Ashley hadn't dipped out like that, I think Bettina would have tried, but no chance after that. Amanda, who I love her in these daily challenges where she knows she's gonna die because she just has a big smile on her face as she's about to die. She just knows like this isn't gonna go well, but like I signed up for this.
It reminded me of on Final Reckoning where they had to like play the stake, like they jump from stake to stake, and she was not confident at all, but she finished, and I was really hoping she could pull that out because it was a very similar challenge.
Yeah, I thought no shot because that challenge was like upper body, whereas this was like more lower body. You got to be able to hop, and Amanda doesn't have that type of athleticism to her. It reminded me of the hamster wheel challenge from Invasion, actually, um, a bit, where the players had to like use their hands and feet at the same time and move across a giant like popcorn type canister. And Amanda in that just hopped immediately at the machine and just fell to the ground. So she did better than that.
Yeah,
Um,
true.
she was the best female on her team by far, but also did not do well. But I'm glad she tried, and she like showed she had heart, which was I guess what mattered. Team Ruby then goes up next, and Corey he kills it, does well. Corey's 6 feet tall. He's taller than Nelson and Ed. More explosive too. Good jumper. Uh, who went next? Was it Kyle went next for them?
Kyle went next, yes.
And Kyle, another guy, 6'1", 6'2", makes it across. He has that. I mean, he has that extra height on him. Has like a long legs, has long arms, allows him to hook on to the beams a bit more. He gets the challenge done, but he doesn't jump to unhook the plug. He jumps on top of the beam, which leads to, as we'll find out later, a DQ. And even everyone in the crowd is saying in the moment that's a DQ. Real embarrassing look for Kyle.
Yeah, I want to point out too, you said a couple weeks ago, with Fessy gone, Corey's really the only guy that seems to stand a chance against CT. He just even last week, as soon as the teams were formed, he rose as the leader of that team. This week we're seeing that again. He effortlessly finishes the daily. He is the example to his team. I've always loved Corey, don't get me wrong, but I'm giving him much more credit in my head as far as his athleticism goes. But yeah, with Kyle, I hated it for him because he clearly DQ'd, as you said. Like, we already know this. If you've watched the episode, there it is. We've also just spoiled it. Whatever. I don't think he intentionally did it because he was scared. I just think he was in the moment and was like, okay, there's the next beam. I'm jumping to it. And it costs them the daily.
Yeah, and that was real unfortunate. Emmy actually did a pretty good job out of all the females. She probably did the second best. And again, she's one of the taller females. I think height really did play a factor in this game, but then she just wipes out. Big T, terrified, being sprayed with water in her face. She has one of the scariest falls I've ever seen. She goes pelvis first into a beam and then falls backwards, flipping in the air with no control. And it was scary. And I didn't really appreciate TJ Lavin laughing so hard at her because I was like, that could be a concussion right there. That was like one of the scariest falls I've ever seen in this show.
Yeah, CT also, before Big T even started, said, just jump, save us all the time. And I'm like, oh, he really has no faith in her. He proved himself to be correct. But also, it's become such a stick for TJ to just laugh uncontrollably like a maniac. And that used to not be the case. Like, people definitely liked when he laughed during trivia challenges, all that. But it's like the producers have been like, hey, TJ, let's amp this up way too much. It's like lost on me now.
Yeah, and it is funny with trivia because the players, they know the fall's coming. They're bracing for it. But to see someone like Big T just violently fall, I didn't think it was funny. I mean, maybe that's part. I mean, I love the Jackass movies. I love stuff like that. I don't like seeing innocent humans just get knocked back and almost die.
Right.
Logan, who is last in the lineup, strategically because he's like, if we have a chance to win, I'll go for it. If we suck, I'm just gonna just jump in the water immediately because I'm hurt. With his team having a shot to win, he goes for it. And again, tall guy, does really well in the challenge. What a surprise that is. He hops across, and he gets the second plug for their team. They think it's the third because of Kyle, but as we know, fortunately not.
Yeah, his hamstring, I don't know how badly that's hurt because those are some pretty big leaps towards the end. I will say I really enjoyed the fact that they were penalized for having a bad team the week before. They lost Priscilla, so they were automatically down one shot to get one of their plugs. Like, if every single person on their team had gotten a plug, but so had everyone else on the other teams, they still wouldn't have a shot. And in a way, that's a handicap, but it's also incentive to win an elimination and not go back to the Ruby team.
Yep. From there, we see the Emerald team go, and the Emerald team thinks they're going to kill it. They stack all their females in front and then all their males in the back, which is a solid strat, you know?
They stack Nani, Tori, and Josh in the front, and then Casey, Devin, and who's the other? Emmanuel in the back. Josh goes third.
They definitely stacked it with who they thought was going to be the worst to best in this challenge.
Yes.
Nani, who is a tall female, she just who has like a lot of experience on the show. She flubbed this challenge hard, and she fell very slowly. Like that was the weirdest part too. It's like she didn't even try; she just fell immediately.
No comment. I love Nani, but she has been so disappointing.
Yeah, I agree. Tori, she says, "Oh, I'm a land challenger," which I've never seen before. She's like, "I'm only good on land." I'm like, "Well, then when are you good?"
Tori is full of excuses.
She flubs immediately. Josh, who is 6'2" and could just walk across the beams. His legs are long enough that he could just walk at least half the platform. And he falls immediately too because he's the goof.
Josh is an idiot. There's my one-liner for him.
I mean, arguably the positive of this team is at least they're falling fast in the water. Casey, she just like puts out a hell of a performance. She, Casey, who has been, I think you and I will agree, arrogant this entire episode. Like, she's just throwing weird little jabs in her confessionals where she makes fun of the Ruby team's workout. Like, oh, that's cute. You guys think you could train and beat me? No, that's not possible. And then in her confessional before this daily challenge, like, I'm the cool, calm, composed one. Everyone knows that on this team. Everyone knows that, like, I'm just the best player. And then she kills the challenge and she shuts us up because she's the only female to do so. And, Casey's tall for a female, but she's not taller than Nelson or even Ed. So what she did was very impressive. She's the only person in that size category to even finish the challenge.
I know. I won't talk about this right now, but she's smug too at the end of the episode in regards to people going in the elimination. And I want to be mad, but just like Allan said, she puts up. So I can't be mad.
Yeah, she comes down, hugs Nani, just like she just has like the girl in her arms. She's winning in all places.
Nani said, "You're amazing." She's like, "This is for all the little girls out there." I was like, "Wait, what? You just jumped from pole to pole to get a cord?" Okay.
Little girls love cords, bro. It's well known.
Yeah.
And I love that Nani too in that confessionals, like, Casey's so humble. She does it like this. Meanwhile, we're watching your confessionals, just seeing the arrogance above her. But I like it. I'd rather her be arrogant than her be wallpaper. Devin goes for it, and I want to give note to Devin on Vendettas. He won his first ever daily challenge in that Heights challenge where there was a hashtag and they had to grab hashtags on different platforms, and he was just sprinting across this like heights over water challenge. So much so that Giant Bananas got pissed off. Like, how is Devin doing this? So Devin does have a history of being good with heights. He is tall as well. We're gonna keep mentioning this every time because it's the tall people are doing well in this challenge. He gets it done with in a pretty fast time, and then Emmanuel goes, and I think a lot of people assumed Emmanuel would do really well in this because he's got good balance to him. But even he overjumps on one of the jumps at the end, and only it comes down to Emerald and Ruby as they have a tie, 2 pieces each. TJ tells him Kyle CQ'd and Emerald did it slightly faster. I don't really know what the tiebreaker was because they said they did it faster. But I think if you had done like the average beams of each member on the team, maybe it would have been a different outcome. And I don't know if the faster of who finished was the best tiebreaker.
This has been an issue all season, and it's totally avoidable. We don't know the times. The challengers don't know the times. Production might favor the Sapphire team. Can't imagine why. They don't seem like the type that production would favor. They do. Like 10 times out of 10, they're going to say, okay, let's make a fool out of Kyle, make him look like an idiot, and let's make the green team safe. We've got our production pets here.
Yeah, I would have really liked if they had just thrown Devin and Corey up there and been like, all right, you two, you go one time, you rep your team. Whoever does this faster between you two right now, you win the daily challenge. I feel like that would have been really good high stakes and would have had us engaged. Instead, no. Emerald wins, and good for them. They get the win. They have the strongest female pairs. Casey earned it for their team by like a hell of a performance, but yeah, would have been more interesting to see if the red team had won after all this. I did find it corny that Corey this whole episode is like, I'm really proud of my team and everything we've overcome and grown from. I'm like, dude, you've had this team for 1 week.
Right. And honestly, realistically, it might have just been like 3-4 days.
Yeah. So the green team gets the win, and more importantly, they win a whole case of P3 protein, and they each get $3,000 added to their bank account. And Luke, I know you love it when players get random amounts of money added to their career totals.
I do, and I was thinking like there's 6 of them, they're gonna get like $500 a piece. 3,000, I mean that's a chunk. I was really upset that like the Emerald team, is that who? No,
yeah.
The Sapphire team.
Emerald.
No, I was really sad that like Ashley didn't get more money, CT didn't get more money. Hell, even Nelson, because like I love when people's amounts go up just a little bit. I know that Ashley's winning amount is $1,121,500. I would have loved if I could now say it's $1,124,000, but I can't.
I think it was on Rivals 1 where TJ was giving people $500 out of his pocket, like $500 US cash out of his pocket.
Let's go add that to the wiki.
It's on the wiki. It's like I think Mandy Moyer has like $500 won on her wiki.
Good for her.
Hey, it's better than zero, I guess.
You're right. You're exactly right.
So yeah, we move on from the daily challenge portion. The green team, which consists of Emmanuel, Devin, Josh, Tori, Casey, and Nani, get the win. It is a male elimination, meaning the people who are eligible to be voted in are Ed, Logan, Corey, Nelson, CT, Kyle, who we must note was basically in tears after the daily challenge because he's, blew the opportunity for his team.
Yeah, and they seem genuine. I've seen Kyle be very disingenuous. This seemed real.
Especially because you could tell, like, he'd been joking, like, a little bit too much about hating his team, and he's kind of looking weak in these daily challenges because he knows, like, oh my God, I'm probably going into elimination because people view me on, like, the bottom of the totem pole because I've been making too much of a joke of myself.
It is a chronic problem for him.
Yep. We're going to move into the politics portion, which is going to be a bit straightforward because someone threw a twist into everything. Just seeing you shake your head.
That's all. Shaking my head. Yes.
Yeah. You're gonna hear Luke's thoughts in a minute. Moving into the politics and strategy portion, the House is talking about two options to be voted in, and it is Logan or Ed, because they are both rookies, which makes sense. They throw in Corey as a red herring idea as well, but essentially it comes down to Logan and Ed is very aware of this idea. What does he do? He tells the entire, yeah, my bad.
The dumbest thing ever. Sorry for cutting off. He does the dumbest thing ever.
Yep. He tells the House, well, Logan's injured. He's got a bad hamstring. Let's give him a few extra days to recover. I will go into elimination. Like, I want to whoop some ace, according to him. And yeah, let's do that. So that way my friend can get some safety for a few days. I'll come back. I'll fight. Everyone is cool with that because they're like, well, we're not the House. Well, 50% of the problem is done. What does Ed do from here, though? And that's like CT even says at the deliberations, like, so Ed, what are you thinking for your vote? And Ed, he keeps that a secret. He keeps that under wraps at least. So, ooh boy, Logan. I mean, Luke, what are your thoughts?
Ooh boy is right. Who knows who they would have actually picked? It wouldn't have been Corey. Let's be real. It would have been one of the rookie guys. However, if you are Ed, Agent Ed, the engineer, he's so smart. You're an idiot. You have 50-50s. Oh, God. If they choose Logan, Logan might not choose him because he's another rookie. But Logan might still go home because he's injured. Logan might even pick Ed, but Ed can likely beat him because he is injured. But not only does Ed volunteer himself, he does it in a way where he cannot pick Logan as his opponent. So he's left to go off against CT, Corey, Nelson, or Kyle. What? And Amanda was like, Logan deserves to be here. And to that I say, why? Because he's been boring and Anissa's partner. And Amanda's like, Ed, you deserve to be here too. Like, yes, you were an alternate, but like, you came in, you made a name for yourself. You've done well in dailies. Like, you won an elimination already. Logan is hurt. Let him go in. And like you said, yeah, if you're people in the non-winning circle, sure, that takes away half the problem. But if you're in the winning circle or whatever they're called, easy vote. I don't have to piss anybody off. Like, he's agreeing for us to vote him in. Well, I wash my hands of this. Ed is so, in this moment, stupid.
Yeah, Amanda really was like, you sure about that? You can take your words back still. We could still make Logan the vote. Let's push that agenda. But nope, Ed did not renege from the idea. He went full force even. My brain was like, this is so stupid, but let's try and figure out what ways it could work positively. My thought process is that if you lose, like, part of the strategy of this game at this point is that if you lose, you want to be surrounded by people that won't pick you going forward. And we know with Corey and Nelson, they aren't going to pick each other. He sees Logan as someone that, like, well, if Logan gets voted in next week, then I know I'm not getting put in by him in the future. And maybe you just want to create a relationship like that going forward. And it also gives him an option to switch teams to the green team or just stay with blue. If you keep that loyalty, you keep that that team unison of maybe Nelson won't bring you in later, maybe CT won't bring you in later. That's just looking at the game optimistically, because I do think in certain situations, you want to be surrounded by people who won't take you in if you lose. I think that's the modern gameplay now.
I agree. It was a nice thought.
Yeah.
So this game, if you're a rookie at this point, is if not now, then later. And I understand how tricky that can be to navigate, but always shoot for later. He did not have to give up his game now. Like, he did not have to say, like, yeah, I'll go in. Because his team could win the next 4 dailies and he would be safe, potentially to even the final. Like, it probably is not likely to happen, but it could happen.
Yeah, I think of on Invasion, Shane Landrum was when they're trying to get into the Oasis. They talked about the idea of Shane going in against Corey in one of the first eliminations that season, and he was like, no, I'll go. It's like you and Theo. That's a matchup. Everyone wants to see that. He like stroked the flames with that fire because he's like, I'm good at dailies. If I can win a daily and then get my ticket to the Oasis that way, I'm gonna try and do that. So that's I agree with you. If you can punch it in later, that's always better. I do think the game landscape of like actually returning to Sapphire was smart because her and Amanda will never pick each other for elimination. And so when you have that guarantee, you should go for it. Because when they were first picking teams, they thought like, oh, it's better if we spread out. No, it's better if you have your allies closer to you, especially because you guys can align on a vote easier if you want to make a big power move.
Yeah, I agree. And you would hate if you were someone like Ashley and you joined Nani's team and you guys lost and Nani went down and Nani chooses you, even though you're on her team. So I agree completely with you.
So from there, Ed talks with Logan, his new best buddy, about who he should call out. CT is not an option because nobody wants to face CT. From there, Logan pitches like, well, if it's speed based, you don't want to go against Corey. If it's strength based, you don't want to go against Kyle. He's like, I think Nelson's probably the easiest option of them all. And Logan has just never watched the show because these three guys are all basically the same type of player who are all good at different things.
Yeah, and Logan's had a weird vendetta against Nelson this entire season. Like multiple times he's conspired against him. But I'm so sick and tired of Logan. He should have been DQ'd when his hamstring was tweaked. I would have applauded the challenge producers. I would have smiled ear to ear.
If Ed had called down Logan as like, oh, look, I was taking you down the whole time as a ploy to get myself to the green team, that would have been like an ultimate big brain move. He's like, oh, guys, I'm actually a villain. This has all been a facade the entire time.
Would have loved that.
Nope, not at all. Nelson loves Ed. I mean, Nelson loves Ed. Ed loves Nelson, so he doesn't call out Nelson. Doesn't call out CT. Those are his Sapphire team buddies. So he says it's between Corey and Kyle, which is really big because everyone in the crowd knows it's going to be a pole wrestle. He calls out Kyle for elimination, and the crowd is like, are you an idiot? Because Kyle has won so many pole wrestles in the past.
Honestly, I didn't know that. I mean, I watched the show, just my mind wasn't like, huh. But I think back, he's beat CT and JP. He's beat Bear. Is that right?
No, he beat Jacob Allen from Double Agent, the mustard guy.
Oh, Josh Allen or yeah. Joseph Allen. And then didn't he beat?
He beat CT last season, but CT threw him the win because Cam was going to beat Big T in anyway, so he didn't really want to fight it.
Got you. I was just trying to figure out if he beat another British person, but maybe not. But that is important because they're making it seem like he is like the GOAT of pole wrestle. Winning 2 pole wrestle eliminations is impressive, but does it make you the GOAT?
No, not at all. I mean, I think Kyle is still the worst player there because you don't want to face Nelson in a pole wrestle. Like we've seen Nelson go up against a 240-pound man in a pole roll and go toe to toe. We saw Nelson just murder Bear in a pole wrestle on Total Madness. Like that's not someone you want in a headbanger. You want Nelson in anything but a pole wrestle.
Yeah, and Corey even too. Corey's strong. Just because he's fast doesn't mean he's not strong.
He's explosive. I don't want Corey either. And his like let's be honest. Kyle's elimination record going into this episode is 4-6. I think that's the same record that Ashley has. And he doesn't really get as much crap for it being bad. I mean, so historically, Kyle in eliminations don't go great, even if he is good at pole wrestles.
Well, I want to point out too, and we've already kind of mentioned it, the no-brainer really is still an option. And it's Logan. He is a slender dude, does not have huge arm muscles. Like, yeah, he looks phenomenal, but of the guys left, like he's probably the weakest. And you could really use that hamstring against him.
For sure. I'd have loved for Logan to have been the house vote and then to call out Nelson and then Nelson turn him into lunch meat because he would have been shut up real fast. I know we make fun of Nelson and his daily challenge loss streak, but man, he would have eaten up Logan in that.
Absolutely.
And that's our strategy portion, which didn't include a lot of strategy, just was a lot of dumb moves that were kind of scratching our heads at. Moving into the elimination portion now. And now talking about the elimination, Kyle jumps down the stage, getting ready to compete with Ed in a pole wrestle. And man, you really do forget how tall Kyle is until he stands next to a guy that's 5'6", 5'7", because Kyle looked like Ed's dad. He was giant. He was just so much taller than him. And you're like, oh man, is Kyle bigger than we remember? Like it happens every season, I feel like.
Kyle is just a big dude. He makes a comment later on the episode about how big Ed's arms are. He's like, they're twice mine, but really they're not because Kyle is just proportionally just much, much bigger.
Yeah, like Kyle's like a big waist too. He's gangly. He's got long legs. He's built really well. He's not a small guy by any means. They get into the pole wrestle. From the start, Ed tries to take it to the ground, and Kyle just has the strategy on him. He knows how to wear down his opponent. He knows how to use the certain angles to his advantage. And Ed is just really struggling at first.
Ed, okay. Starting out, I was like, okay, Ed's doing okay. But it was so clear, like 4 seconds in, Ed's wearing himself out. Like, sure, it's impressive to pick up the pole with Kyle's entire body on it and slam him into the dirt. That's certainly a tactic. But if you're Kyle, you're just holding on. Like, you're not losing strength.
I do want to actually give credit to Ed there where, no, because I feel like at first it was like a couple minutes of them wrestling on the ground. And then Ed decided, screw this, I'm getting my ass kicked trying to play his game, and then tried to power bomb him a bunch up and down violently. And, you know, you don't see that a lot in pole wrestle. You could see the crowd even being like, I've never seen Kyle take this much of a beating.
While I agree completely, it probably would have worked against an opponent in a similar size range. But Kyle's just so big that I don't think it made that big of an impact. I think it would have been someone smaller. But Ed is just literally picking up a 200-plus-pound man with a pole, trying to shake him, and that's got to take a toll on every part of your arms, which you need for this pole wrestle.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, even Casey threw out a jab, like, "Oh, you don't got the strategy. You're such a rookie. You suck." I'm like, Casey, I've never seen you in a pole wrestle. Let's calm down. This is this man's first pole wrestle. This is like all he could like. I thought it was the best strategy for Ed in that moment because he was playing Kyle's game, and it wasn't working. So might as well just try to use blunt force at that point. Like I get people are gonna say like, "Oh, it's like this is the vet. This is the type stuff." Like, no, Ed tried to play that way, and it wasn't working. Um, Kyle at one point though, I think he was kicking Ed in the face. He was just straight kicking Ed, Ed in the face as he was like trying to power bomb him, and it made me really wonder, what are the rules to pole wrestle at this point? Can you just straight punch someone? Like, because it felt like there were no rules in this version.
Right. I mean, you can definitely dislocate someone's shoulder. Madness.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know. This is horrible too. But even when Ed was like dropping him to the ground and picking him back up, I'm like, kick some dirt in his face. Like, if you're gonna play dirty because that would distract me.
For sure. When Kyle kicked Ed in the face, I had to replay it multiple times because I saw sand just go flying out in the air. I was like, man, did you just shoot sand in this dude's face? And yeah, because in the traditional in the first season they did pole wrestle, the rule was you couldn't get off your knees. And nowadays there's no rules. There's just nothing to it. I like this more violent format from an aesthetic standpoint. But there were points where I was like, why don't you just like punch someone in their Achilles and just see see what happens?
Why don't you just bite their wrist,
Isn't that the old Teresa Nani thing? It's like, oh, she's biting me. She's like, she's literally biting me right now.
Yeah, give the old Sylvia special a headbutt. I don't know.
Perfect. Eventually, Kyle, once Ed is like a little bit tired from power bombing, he flips it over. He takes advantage of the moment. He gets leverage on him, and he takes the win for that round. Ed looks kind of distraught. He's just like, my God, I just beat the hell out of this man. He just took advantage of me.
Yeah, and we all know this, but winning the first round of anything is so important. How often in life do you lose the first round set of anything and come back? I mean, it's always possible. We've definitely seen it, but that momentum and that motivation and that boost you get from winning the first round of something, it's like, okay, Kyle just has to win once more. Whereas Ed's mindset now is, oh, I have to beat him 2 more times.
And it was an uphill battle because he'd already used a lot of his gas. I mean, whenever someone does make a comeback like that, we remember it as being like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. I can't believe they came back. And Nani did it last season against Gabby Allen, but she probably shouldn't have went down 1-0 in the first place. That was like a different circumstance.
Right.
I do got to give credit to Ed for round two because like when the round starts, Ed just tries to keep them both on their feet, and he just tries to like we're gonna play the rip game. We're not gonna wrestle. It's like I'm just trying to rip this away, and I'm trying to use my core strength, trying to use my hamstrings. Which if he used against Logan, Logan would have lost immediately because Logan doesn't have a good hamstring right now.
Again, so stupid. And the rip game, while that probably is a better strategy that conserves energy, if you're the shorter person in the rip game, you have a disadvantage.
I agree, but at least like he was trying something different. That's my thing. Is like if you're not willing to try something different to win, then you're not actually trying. And that's what I give Ed credit for because he was just trying to figure out what would work for him because playing the more conservative game that Kyle was just going to beat him at. And Ed even explains at one point like the problem with Kyle is that he's so long and gangly that no matter where I try to put the pole, he just always has a hand on it. And I mean, that's what it came down to.
Yeah. I mean, no surprise here. Kyle wins the round and wins the elimination. But I'll say exactly what you said because I'll give him the same credit. I do like that Ed is smart. And he's not smart in the sense that he's boring, even though he made a stupid decision this episode. He's smart when it comes to even the physicalities of the show, which, if he's allowed to come back, if he accepts a call, if he gets one, which I feel like he would, he could bring a lot of different things to the table that we've not seen yet. He just would have to bring in some other stuff.
For sure. And it's like, people are going to be like, oh, you don't know how to play a pole wrestle, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, it's a rookie season. There's no reason for him to know how to do this until you get the experience. In a future season, if he loses a pole wrestle the same way, then he's a complete idiot. I mean, we already know he's, not the brightest thinker from throwing himself into here. But, I mean, Ed is playing for the fans more than anything. We've talked about this since day one. He has that circle attitude to him where he's trying to gain influence. He's trying to be everyone's like favorite. And if he had won this elimination, stayed with Team Blue, and then next week Logan goes in, doesn't call him in, people would be calling Ed a genius. They'd be like, "Oh man, what a ballsy move. He plays the game the right way." Instead, he just kind of looks like an idiot with egg on his face.
Yeah, he also lost the circle, let's note. So he should have brought in a little bit of a different strategy. However, I will give full transparency. Ed was brought in as an alternate. I mean, he got lucky. He was not going to be put on the show. And let's be real, if you look back at alternates in the past, hardly any of them ever actually get brought back to the show to come on. He got really lucky and he thought, let me make the most of this moment. He was happy. He was cheerful. He had some good daily performances. He won elimination already. He might be thinking like, let me go out with a good guy at it. And if I don't go out, I can last a little bit longer. So maybe I will feed into a little bit the idea you had earlier that this could have been schematic.
Fans love him, man. You want to take that away. I don't know how the reaction to him will be after this episode, but I think it'll still be generally positive. It wasn't the worst move we've ever seen. We've seen other people die on the swords in worse ways. And Kyle, he gets this win. He's now a career 5-6 in elimination, one win away from a 500 record. Still a losing record, but then he chooses. He says he gives out a speech like, "My dad said on his dying bed that," which was, or was it grandpa? He said, "My grandpa said on his my granddad said on his dying bed that if you're gonna do something, you play with CT's team. So I'm taking Nelson's spot. I'm playing with CT." And I think it is a smart idea because Kyle's thinking about the final. He's like, I've almost won a final. CT's won finals. Amanda would be pretty good in a final. Ashley's won finals. Be a pretty good team.
I want to clarify too that it was a funny joke, sure, but I could definitely see his grandfather on his deathbed saying like, play with CT, flatlining. But he said, my granddad said verbatim, screw the Ruby team, join Sapphire with CT, which just totally was like, okay, your granddad didn't say that. He's probably rolling over in his grave, either laughing or just convulsing because that was a bad joke. But you're right. Sapphire team makes some sense. I don't like the Emerald team, but they kind of might have made more sense. But then again, they've been on a win streak. You don't want to piss them off.
Yeah, I think Emerald would have made sense because if he takes Josh off the team, or if he takes Emmanuel off the team, if he takes Emmanuel off the team, Devin won't call him into elimination. And if Josh calls you into elimination, you just beat Josh in elimination because that's what people do when they face Josh in elimination. That probably would have been the best play for him to get to the final. But if they think the final's coming up somewhat soon, you ride with the blue team because I think that is the team built for a final.
I agree. CT and Ashley, hate on those two in different facets all you want. Put them in a final with you. You want to be on their team.
Yeah, I mean, even coming into the season, I thought Kyle and Amanda as like a pair, like that would be a good team in a final in a world where like CT and Ashley weren't there. But if they're all on the same team, that's a really good team. Plus Bettina, I mean, everyone's talking about Bettina. People on the show when Bettina's not on screen, they're asking, "Where's Bettina?"
I couldn't help but think. Sorry, Allan, whose new Twitter name is #1 Bettina Stan. I couldn't help but think, send Bettina home, and this foursome could do some damage in a final.
Well, I don't want to say that because I love Bettina too much, but you're probably right.
Yeah, I love her too, but let's be realistic. She's a rookie, Allan. That's why I'm saying that.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. Ooh, yeah.
She's also a little top heavy. Probably couldn't run in a final.
Your favorite is Ashley. You realize what I'm saying.
She's proven that she's got them rocks strapped to her chest and she can power through it.
All right. Oof. And I mean, it's fun that we're actually talking about the final now. This game is getting really real. The numbers are dwindling. The episodes are becoming really good these last few weeks. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Caffeine Confessionals. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, on iTunes, Spotify. Follow Luke on Twitter at Final Reckoning. Follow me on Twitter at the Allan and Gary Caffeine Confessionals podcast on Instagram. How you doing, Luke? How do you feel about this episode?
Feeling good. Excited for next week. I'm ready for this to start dwindling down. Not because I'm bored of it, just because I want to know who wins.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. We got All Stars coming in a few weeks. We got Survivor going on still. It's a good time to be a reality TV fan. It's also a busy time. Have a great day, everyone. Signing out.